Welcome to the One in the Many. My name is Arshak Ben-Lian. My purpose with the One in the Many podcast is to explore the process of integration as developmentally formative and therapeutically corrective factor in human psychology. The One in the Many is the study of how conscious life differentiates identity, integrates relation, regulates itself under constraint, and sustains direction through time. Subscribe to the One in the Many podcast and connect with me by writing to abenlian@oneinthemany.net. The power of human consciousness lies not merely in its capacity to perceive, but in its capacity to transcend immediate perception through abstraction. Abstraction liberates the mind from the constraints of the present moment. It allows man to unify countless perceptual instances into single conceptual identities, enabling foresight, planning, and creation. Yet, abstraction introduces a distance from the perceptual field from which it originates. It rises above perception, but in rising, it risks losing contact with the very reality that gave it birth. Concretization is the operation that restores this contact. Concretization is the process by which an abstraction is returned to perceptual reality through the identification of its causal manifestation in existence. It is not the negation of abstraction, but its completion. Where abstraction integrates perceptual concretes into conceptual unity, concretization redistributes conceptual unity into perceptual form. It closes the epistemological circuit between knowing and being. Every valid abstraction possesses a dual structure: conceptual identity and perceptual referent. The conceptual identity unifies, the perceptual referent validates. Without referential grounding, an abstraction remains suspended, logically formed but existentially unverified. It cannot guide action because action operates within reality, and reality is encountered perceptually. To concretize an abstraction is to answer the fundamental epistemological question: what in reality does this idea correspond to? Consider the abstraction of integration. At the conceptual level, integration is the process by which differentiated elements are unified into a coherent functional system. This definition captures the identity of the process but does not yet restore its perceptual grounding. Concretization reveals that integration exists physically in the synchronization of neural firing patterns, biologically in the coordination of muscular movement, psychologically in the formation of stable identity, and behaviorally in the acquisition of skill. When a child learns to read, when a pianist plays without conscious effort, when an individual acts with self-consistent purpose, integration is no longer an abstraction, it is perceptually manifest reality. Concretization thus serves as the validation mechanism of abstraction. It demonstrates that the abstraction is not an arbitrary construction of consciousness, but an identification of real causal structure in existence. This operation is reciprocal. Consciousness moves upward through abstraction, integrating perceptual multiplicity into conceptual unity. It moves downward through concretization, expressing conceptual unity through perceptual manifestation. These two movements form a continuous epistemological cycle. Perception gives rise to abstraction. Abstraction guides concretization. Concretization validates abstraction. Validated abstraction enables higher integration. Through this recursive cycle, knowledge grows in both scope and reliability. The failure to concretize produces what may be termed floating abstractions. Conceptual forms detached from perceptual reference. Such abstractions lack causal grounding. They cannot be operationalized, tested, or integrated into further knowledge. They remain epistemologically inert. Their inability arises not from abstraction itself, but from incomplete abstraction. Abstraction severed from its perceptual foundation. Concretization restores stability by re-establishing the correspondence between concept and existence. At its highest expression, concretization becomes creative. It is the process by which consciousness transforms abstract integration into material reality. The engineer concretizes mathematical principles into physical structures. The scientist concretizes theoretical relationships into experimental demonstration. The artist concretizes emotional and conceptual integration into perceptual form. The individual concretizes values into action, and action into identity. Through concretization, the invisible becomes visible. The abstract becomes actual. The potential becomes real. This reveals the deeper epistemological function of concretization. It is the mechanism by which consciousness participates in the ongoing integration of existence. Abstraction allows man to discover the structure of reality. Concretization allows him to embody that structure through purposeful action. Abstraction expands the horizon of the mind. Concretization establishes its footing. Together they form the reciprocal motion through which consciousness both understands reality and transforms it. Concretization is thus not merely a communicative technique, but an ontological act. It is the return of abstraction to reality, the completion of the integrative arc through which consciousness fulfills its function as the faculty of identifying existence. Direct perceptual experience is the foundation of all knowledge. Every valid abstraction originates in perception. Yet consciousness is not limited to concretizing only what it has personally perceived. Through logic and contextual integration, consciousness can concretize realities that lie beyond its immediate sensory history. This capacity may be termed inferential concretization. Inferential concretization is the process by which consciousness reconstructs the perceptual implications of an abstraction through logical necessity and contextual integration, even in the absence of direct sensory experience. It operates by preserving causal continuity across integrated knowledge. When an abstraction has been properly formed and integrated into a stable contextual structure, its consequences become logically constrained. These constraints allow consciousness to identify what must exist. what must occur and what must be observable under specific conditions, even before direct observation confirms it. Logic serves as the structural operator that preserves identity across transformations. Context serves as the field within which identity operates. Together, they allow consciousness to extend concretization beyond immediate perception without severing causal grounding. This extension does not create new reality. It reveals previously unobserved aspects of reality already implied by existing integrations. The mechanism of inferential concretization. Inferential concretization operates through three sequential stages. 1. Integration of known perceptual data. Previously acquired perceptual observations are integrated into conceptual identity. 2. Logical projection within contextual constraints. The implications of conceptual identity are traced through logical relationships while preserving consistency with established knowledge. And 3. Reconstruction of perceptual consequences. The logical implications are expressed as predicted perceptual manifestations. The abstraction becomes perceptually anticipatable before perceptually encountered. This anticipation remains grounded because it preserves causal continuity with prior perception. Here is a scientific example, the prediction of Neptune. Neptune was concretized logically and mathematically before it was seen perceptually. Astronomers observed irregularities in the orbit of Uranus. These irregularities could not be explained by known gravitational sources. Through integration of Newton's law of gravitation and contextual analysis of orbital mechanics, astronomers logically inferred the existence of unseen planetary mass. They calculated its predicted position. Only afterward was Neptune observed through telescopic perception. Logic and context allowed concretization prior to direct sensory experience. Perception confirmed what integration had already made causally necessary. An engineer concretizes a bridge before it exists physically. Through integration of physical laws, material properties, and structural relationships, the engineer reconstructs the perceptual form of the bridge in conceptual space. The bridge becomes perceptually anticipatable through logical necessity. Construction then materializes what consciousness has already concretized inferentially. Reality conforms because the abstraction was grounded in causal structure. The nervous system itself operates through inferential concretization. The brain continuously predicts sensory input based on integrated neural models. These predictions allow rapid perception, efficient action, and adaptive behavior. Neurointegration generates anticipated perceptual structures. Incoming sensory data then confirms, refines, and corrects those structures. This predictive function reduces cognitive load and accelerates adaptive response. Consciousness does not wait passively for perception. It actively prepares for perception through integration. Inferential concretization is valid only when grounded in prior perceptual integration. Logic cannot operate independently of perceptual origin. Context cannot include arbitrary elements disconnected from reality. When inferential projection exceeds contextual grounding, concretization collapses into speculation. Valid inferential concretization preserves causal continuity. Invalid projection violates causal continuity. The difference lies in integration density and contextual integrity. Inferential concretization dramatically increases recursive potential. The ability to concretize beyond immediate perception accelerates the integration cycle. Consciousness can explore possible structures of reality without requiring direct sensory exposure to each instance. This expands the effective perceptual horizon of the individual. Formally, we can express it as effective perceptual range proportional to integration density times contextual integrity. Higher integration density increases inferential reach while preserving accuracy. This expands recursive potential exponentially. Creative individuals possess exceptional capacity for inferential concretization. They can reconstruct perceptual consequences of abstractions before those consequences exist physically. This allows them to create new structures, technologies, and conceptual systems. Creativity is the concretization of logically necessary but not yet perceptually realized integrations. They see what must be before it becomes. Logic and context allow consciousness to extend concretization beyond perception while preserving causal fidelity to reality. Through inferential concretization, consciousness transcends the limits of immediate sensory experience without abandoning perceptual grounding. It allows the individual not merely to perceive reality as it is, but to identify reality as it must be. This capacity makes foresight possible. It makes creation possible. It makes progress possible. This is the one in the many. The principle of life is the process of integration from a single cell to an ideal human being. The story of life unfolds through integration, from a single percept to a library of knowledge. Through virtue, reason, honesty, independence, selfishness, productivity, you set your values, purpose, to achieve self-esteem and happiness. Through time and energy, from induction to integration to reduction, the smallest particle unifies matter, and the highest purpose unifies your life. You, the one in the many, matter. May you integrate your life with value-driven days.